Welcome to On the Air. I'm Jim Ganther, and with me today is longtime friend and industry veteran, Carl Grain. Carl, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Carl, what are you up to now? You've been working over the years for almost all of my clients.
Yeah, absolutely. We've known each other for quite some time, and so I appreciate the referral back in November of last year because you referred me to a company named Anomaly Labs. And when you called me, I was thinking, Anomaly Labs, what in the world could this be? And so after a demo or two with Anomaly Labs, I found out that really what we're trying to do is put artificial intelligence, AI, into the dealership to act as a coaching and training tool for dealership employees.
What is your role at Anomaly Labs?
So I am the head of business strategy. So being in this type of a role is really exciting to me because of my background in training, because of my background in income development, and knowing as many agencies that I do in TPAs. It allows me to talk to all of those and use all those resources that I've had to get AutoTrainer up and running.
We hear the term artificial intelligence, or AI for short. Everybody seems to assume it's the next new thing, like the internet, but nobody is really sure how it's going to manifest in the dealership environment. What are your thoughts?
Well, let me first off start by saying what it's not. Because when I first start talking to agents or TPAs or dealership employees about artificial intelligence, what do you think happens?
People freak out, we're going to be replaced by robots.
That's the first reaction that I get every time. And so I'm here to say, first off, that is not the goal of AutoTrainer. That is not the goal of what we're doing at Anomaly Labs. What we're trying to do is build the coaching tool, the training tools, so that an employee can be consistent and have that tool, have that coach 24/7 so that they can follow the process. And that's where the artificial intelligence comes in as monitoring and coaching up an employee at the dealership.
So is Anomaly's AutoTrainer product like a automated coach that can monitor every transaction to make sure it's consistent with the training that they initially received? Is that a good way to say it?
That's a great way to put it. So what we do is we customize each individual F&I process, if you will, because each TPA or each agency has their own secret sauce. They've got their F&I process that they'd like to follow. We build in audible checks, and then we record every transaction. From that recording, the AI will go and check and actually assign a grade to say how many points or what percentage of those points did you hit, thereby creating that coach to say where's the strengths and where's the weaknesses or areas of opportunity for each individual F&I manager.
What is artificial intelligence? What can it be in the F&I environment?
So we have 4 goals that we're setting out to do with AutoTrainer. The first one is the sustained employee performance. You and I both know you send an employee to a training class, and what happens to their performance when they return from that class?
Right up here.
It goes right up here. But over time, what happens?
Right back where it started.
Right back where it started. So by having AI as a coach and a trainer in the F&I office, we want to be able to lengthen that time of high performance because you do have a trainer 24/7, 365. Just log in and see how you've done on the last couple of deals, and they'll provide you ongoing coaching. The second objective that we have is increased compliance. This is your wheelhouse here.
Glad to hear it.
And there's so many new laws coming out, the CARS ruling, for an example. So we want to make sure that we're able to document that for the dealer, keep it on hand for as long as the safeguards rule requires or whatever rules require, and we increase the compliance portion of it. The next is the surgical approach to income development. But with AutoTrainer, you can drill down to specific questions or points in the process that a F&I manager is doing a really nice job on and compliment them there. And then you could also go to areas where they're not scoring well and give them some coaching tools and some tips on those parts as well. The last part of it, Jim, is obviously increased dollars, increased performance financially. If those first three are in place, we know that products per deal, we know that PVR is going to increase, and whatever other KPIs a dealer's looking for will be on the increase as well.
So we've talked about the use of AutoTrainer before the F&I transaction and during the F&I transaction. Tell us what it can do after the F&I transaction.
Well, that's where, in my opinion, some of the magic really happens, because after AI has graded the process and graded the compliance, graded that performance against the audible checks, what we can do is generate a variety of different reports, report cards, scores to score somebody to point out where the strengths are in the process and in compliance, and where maybe some coaching opportunities are.
I am for recording the F&I transaction to keep the F&I manager honest and legitimately for training purposes. But the problem with that approach is that it takes you as long to review the recording as the transaction took. And no one has that kind of time. Are you telling me that your system can focus in on where the bad stuff happened or where the good stuff happened and just take you right there?
Absolutely. So we've actually talked to different agents that say, every morning with their morning coffee, they spend 2 hours listening to recordings of F&I managers to try and get some of this data that we can instantly, after the transaction is completed, you click the stop button, and almost instantaneously do you have a green, yellow, and red score for not only the process, but individual steps within the process, individual questions within the process, and then it is all compiled into a overall score as well. So we're actually focusing in on 5 different scores for the F&I manager. The first one is that process score. How closely did they follow that prescribed process based on what your dealer wants to set as the benchmarks? The next one is the compliance score, which is near and dear to your heart. It is based on a number of different federal laws that we've written in with your help to get the script and put it in there, and those audible checks that are in there. Next is profitability. So we talk primarily with your menu provider. We're able to pull that data. We also look at utilization. Is it fair for that F&I manager to only do finance deals and they exclude cash deals? So we look at the utilization rate amongst the F&I managers. And then last but not least, we have an overall score where we average those all 4 together.
That sounds very well thought out.
Yes. So a district manager or a agent or TPA doesn't have to sit there in the morning with their coffee and listen to 2 hours worth of recordings. It's all right there at their fingertips. We can go back as far as they've been a client of AutoTrainer and go back and listen to those. And it gives that surgical approach to that income development that we talked about, Jim.
So if I understand you correctly, the AI can grade your performance against how you performed according to your training.
Correct.
And it can also pull data about your profitability. Can this AI-enabled AutoTrainer learn over time and thus encourage the behaviors that yield greater profitability?
Absolutely. Now, it takes a lot of data for the machine to learn that, but over time, what will happen is that the machine will be able to pick out certain words, certain phrases. We're even talking about being able to pick out emotions, about how the pitch in their voices change, to be able to include all of that and try and give data points on that type of information back to the F&I manager and the agent.
Is there anything else that AutoTrainer can do after the transaction is concluded?
Absolutely. We have the ability to role play with the computer. So what that means is, practice makes perfect, correct? And the last people that we want to be practicing in on is our paying customers. So what we've done is very much like in the F&I schools. So far, we have built 5 different personalities within the machine. And so what you can do is if you have role-playing situations where you feel you can get better by practicing, go in there and talk with that C customer and role-play with the AI computer. They will talk back to you. They will give you real objections. And they can then put some data points in there to grade your role play with it. So if you really want to get good, let's talk about going to that F customer, the one that says, forget it, I'm not buying no matter what. Go in there and play with that one for a little while.
It's like playing chess against the machine.
It's like playing chess against the machine. You've got it.
Well, one of the best things that AI can do, as opposed to merely recording a transaction, is it can actually monitor and interpret the behavior of the dealership employee, the F&I manager. And it can also capture the behavior and the words of the customer. So it creates a record of what really happened, and it gets the he said, she said off the table. Now, a year ago, one of the things we might have worried about the most is the F&I manager using terms correctly? Like APR is a defined term, but it only applies to the financing of a vehicle. It does not apply to a lease. So if you use the term APR in a lease transaction, that could be construed as being misleading or intentionally deceptive. Well, there's a new term in town as a result of the freshly issued CARS rule. Here's a copy of the CARS rule. This is my copy, and it is 382 pages long between the rule and its commentary. And a couple of us here at the office have had to read it and keep on reading it. But one of the things that AI can help us with is the conundrum in the CARS rule about a new term called express informed consent. That is a defined term, just like APR from 50 years ago. And you have to meet the standard of express informed consent. And it's almost defined in the rule in the negative. It says the following are examples of what does not constitute express informed consent. 1, a signed or initialed document by itself. Stop here for a moment. When I went to law school, when you sign a document, it indicates you've read it, you understand it, and you consent to it. This little sentence throws 1,000 years of contract jurisprudence out the window. Signing it no longer means I've read it, I understand it, and I consent to it.
Oh, time out. Ex-F&I manager here. You mean to tell me that having a client or a customer sign that document, that's no longer proof of disclosure?
By itself, that's a signed or initial document by itself does not equal express informed consent, meaning when the customer leaves the dealership, you don't know if you've sold the car. Wow. That's pretty serious stuff. But they don't tell us what is more. Well, I'll tell you what is more. Anomaly's AutoTrainer product contains the Compliance Trainer product, which is also sold separately. And the Compliance Trainer product it includes training. It actually has the training you referred to on 30 different modules on the federal laws and regulations that apply to the automotive transaction. So on top of just the signature or initials, we can prove that we have trained the F&I manager what to do. We can then monitor the F&I manager to make sure he's actually doing those things. For example, one of the things that requires express informed consent is the purchase of any add-on product. You have to provide the cost of the product, the impact on the monthly payment, and the total cost of the product, including the finance charge for the term of the financing. So we can listen and detect whether or not the F&I manager explained all of those elements for all of the products.
So for each product, we have to do the offering price, we have to do the finance charge on it, and we have to do the total.
Yes. And when you add that up, when we've trained the F&I managers how to do it, when we're listening to confirm they actually did it, That, to us, enhances the signature or initial. So it's not just signature or initial by itself. It's all these other elements brought to bear so that we can demonstrate this customer knew exactly what he was buying and exactly what it cost, and exactly what it cost if he just wanted to stroke a check and buy it retail or finance it. This is huge because your compliance trainer product isn't just a training component or an enhancement of your compliance. It actually is part of the compliance process itself. It both monitors it and it helps actually do it. That's big stuff.
That's big stuff, absolutely. From a compliance point of view with this new regulation, what would be the one piece of advice you could give to a dealer right now?
The best advice I could give you is take the CARS rule seriously. The biggest complaint I've been hearing in the 30 days since the rule was issued is that I don't want to adjust my advertised pricing in news media, television, radio, or online to include all that goes into the offering price because nobody else is doing that. It's been illegal to exclude dock fee for decades, and yet very, very, very few dealers advertise prices that include their dock fee. And the reason's always the same. I don't want to be the only guy doing it right. No one will come to my store. And there's this carryover of that thought. Put that aside. Don't be the one getting sued. Be the first one to do it right. Take it seriously. Train your people on it. Have a written CARS rule policy. Have training, preferably video-based online training. Why? Because you're required to keep records of all of your training content and the results of the training. So video-based online training from a learning management system ticks all of those boxes. Here's what the training is, here's when the people took it, here's the score of 100% they got when they took the test. That's all mandatory. Then apply a system like Compliance Trainer, a component of AutoTrainer, to be able to prove that you're doing it right. Keep those records for 2 years. Again, a requirement of the new rule. Bottom line, take the rule seriously and then implement, take the steps that demonstrate you're taking it seriously. Live up to it.
Is the government taking this seriously? In the 30 days that it's been out there, have they taken any action so far against any dealerships?
I've already seen dealerships prosecuted using the standards of the CARS rule, and it's not even the law yet. It's not even in effect yet, because it's not yet July 30th. If they are prosecuting dealers under the language of the CARS rule, yes, they are taking it very seriously, and they are making sure that we know they're taking it very seriously. I've been asked, is this going to be delayed like parts of the safeguards rule were delayed 6 months? And the answer is it's possible, but I wouldn't bet on it. Because if you wait till the 30th of July, it's too late to come into compliance. And even if the Federal Trade Commission can't knock on your door on the 31st of July, I bet you there's a local plaintiff's lawyer who could.
I'm sure of that. Well, thank you very much. It was very enlightening for me to hear all these different nuances of the new CARS rule.
And thank you very much for joining us here on the Air. For Carl Grain and On the Air, I'm Jim Ganther. Thanks for watching.